Jacob Markstrom was easily one of the Flames' best player this season, but a lot of things happened to soil the relationship between him and the management.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit I have a competitive side, and it's a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Today, we are continuing the core player season reviews, and it felt very appropriate to talk about Jacob Markstrom because the biggest storyline heading into this season, or really into the summer, is Jacob Markstrom and will he be traded? Will Jacob Markstrom be traded? We're going to talk about what went right, what went wrong, and the long-term plan for him on today's episode of Locked On Flames. But before we do any of that, please make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. This was a very clean slate for Jacob Markstrom, I would say. As we are all aware, Jacob Markstrom had a horrendous 2022-2023 season. It was bottom of the barrel bad. It stunk. And a lot of it had to do with, his own mechanical and techniques and things like that. But it also, there were a lot of reasons why. There was a lot of outside noise coming from one person in particular that would just, didn't really do his goaltenders or anyone on his team any favors. And coming in with better morale, I think did not just Jacob Markstrom, but a lot of the returning members good. We talk about goaltending be such it's such a heavily mental thing, and like people make jokes about goaltenders being so out there and crazy, but they're locked in, and that has to do with the mentality of the strength and the mental strength it takes to be a goaltender, because you can't be worrying about what Susie Luhu is doing up in the stands when you're playing goaltender. You have to be focused on the game. And when you have someone that's threatening to pull you after the first period, tied at nothing, and it's someone that's constantly just egging you on and pushing you, and it's not even like it's pushing you to do better. It's just poking the bear and pressing the buttons. But Jacob Markstrom finished the season with a .905 save percentage, and that's really not great. But the underlying stats had him finishing as a top 10 goaltender in saves above expected, saves above expected, saved goals above expected. The statistics that we're using now that to better calculate goaltending. And the biggest thing here is you are never going to get that Vezina caliber goaltending from Jacob Markstrom again. Why? Because he is getting older. He does not have that team in front of him. And people can say, well, this person did it with, that team. Everyone operates differently. But I do think a big thing, everything was clicking that year. Everyone was doing very well. And Jacob Markstrom, he goes in a pattern. It's good, not good. Good, not good. So based on this year being good, you're going into next season kind of assuming things aren't going to be good. And this was a very big challenge for him this season, I would say. Just because he did have to rebound after what happened last year. And he was coming in, like we talked about, a clean slate, but that doesn't mean that your performance is automatically going to improve or anything like that. I think the long off season helped. He didn't have as long of an off season the season before. He was also welcoming a new baby last off season, so I'm sure his sleep schedule was very wackadoodle. And he was healthy for most of the season. He was solid. He was solid and healthy through about 75, I would honestly say 85% of this season. And the only thing where I think you can kind of put a buffer on that is when he did miss a few games prior to the trade deadline due to injury. And it was something that was nagging, and it lingered. And, we haven't heard about, like, he hasn't had surgery. There hasn't been any announcement of that. Based on social media, it looks like he's back in Sweden. So I can't sit here and say, well, it's possible he has off-season surgery, or it's not possible. Like, it's possible or it's not possible. Like, it's April. It's April 30th. You never know what could happen. He could get down on the floor and play with his son and tweak whatever was wrong before the wrong way. It could be completely non-hockey related thing that pushes it to that. But anyways, I digress. I am heavily impressed with how Jacob Markstrom played this season and really how he conducted himself in general. I know that there are players that don't want their business or speculations out in the headlines and being speculated upon. And Jacob Markstrom is one of those players. And we're going to talk about that next, and how he handled all of that speaks volumes about him. But before we get into the what went wrong side of things, we are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back after this. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there is just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. We're here for you Monday through Friday, your team every day. One of the biggest things that sticks out when it comes back to revisiting Jacob Markstrom's season is, of course, the trade deadline. He was heating up really most of the season. And it started out as, little conversations like, could this be something that gets explored? Is this worth exploring? What does it mean if, the Flames do put Jacob Markstrom out there? What if the no trade clause? Like, it started as that. And then there started to be more conversations about it from people who are closer to the team, who are around the team every day and who talk to the players, who have sources within the organization. And it ended up turning into what a lot of people would call a failure. Jacob Markstrom obviously has that no trade clause, and he, I suppose that ownership or management went to him and said, would you waive this? And he said, if the team's right, yes. And New Jersey happened to be that suitor, and he waived it, and it supposedly fell apart. And that's very frustrating because obviously, you're going to a team that, if you go there, there's a chance you're making the playoffs. He ended up missing the playoffs. But had he, rectified that injury quicker and played in front of a slightly better team, could they have made the playoffs potentially? Like the potential was there. And, it didn't happen. You have to think about what the return was going to be, because you were probably going to get Alexander Holtz, who has a lot of potential, very much a reclamation project, like Igor Sharangovich, who Lindy Ruff just hated. Did not give him any real opportunity to redeem himself after making mistakes. I don't think he really has defensive qualities that, you're itching to get. That, and it would probably have come with a solid chunk of draft picks too. So you have to really look at what the Flames lost here. They weren't going to make the playoffs anyways, and they lost out big time, right? With this came disgruntlement. And I think that this was fair. I think it is absolutely fair for Jacob Markstrom to be disgruntled and kind of put off, because he told the organization he would do them a favor. And then it turns into, hey, like, can we like kind of keep this quiet, like as in-house as possible? And then it's all over the headlines. It's the highlight story of Hockey Night in Canada segment for weeks leading up to the deadline. You're constantly being asked about it. It's not just you have to worry about. You have to worry about immigration stuff for you, your kid, your wife, what's going to happen with the house, where are you going to live? And then for all of that to be like put into motion and all that energy be exuded there just for the Flames to supposedly back out. Like, I don't know. I don't think really the organization did Markstrom any favors here. I think that, he has every right to be upset and like aggravated, because again, he wants to win. He's not going to win in Calgary on this contract, and they are not extending him after this contract. So for the Flames to capitalize on this and just completely fumble the bag, it's a failure. It absolutely is. And I think that that's kind of where things went wrong for Markstrom, because he obviously had the little like injury before, and then trade deadline came and he played, I think, like 1 or 2 games, and then Dustin Wolf took over, which was great. It is what everyone had wanted all season long, and they finally got it at the expense of Jacob Markstrom. Did they not trade Markstrom because Dan Vladar needed surgery, and there was going to be like, who are you going to call up? You're going to call up Oscar Dansk and then have an ECHL goaltender? Like, what? Like there was going to be a lot of moving parts to that, and I just, for Jacob Markstrom to want to finish out his contract here, I can't really blame him for wanting to be moved this summer if that's the case. I think he obviously holds all the cards, because he has the right to waive that no trade clause. He has the right to not waive it. It is up to him, but ultimately it's up to management to make it right. And they need to send him to a team that, maybe needs a goaltender, but is still competitive. Maybe a good goaltender could help boost their playoff chances. That's what they need to really solidify themselves as a playoff team and to be taken seriously. There's a lot of different things that play into this, and I feel like Markstrom was done so dirty, and I don't blame him, and nobody should blame him for being upset. You should be upset at whoever fumbled this. There are a number of people involved in this that could have rectified things, that could have really done their job better and respected Markstrom's wishes, but they didn't. And I get it. At the end of the day, like, it's a business, and like you're not trying to play Mr. Nice Guy, but like if someone is doing you a solid, you might want to return the favor. And I think for Markstrom, why would he want to play another season here where he doesn't have, I wouldn't have confidence in the team to orchestrate a trade or to make things right for me. I certainly wouldn't. They couldn't even do one thing right. I would hope that if something gets done this summer, it's before the draft and the Flames are able to stack up those draft picks and do something good with them, because we have talked ad nauseum about what the draft capital means for the Flames. Maybe they're not trading picks to like move up in the draft, or maybe they are. Maybe they're trading for a prospect or someone like a cusp NHL player, a fringe NHL player. Like, they're doing something to help move this team forward. All of those assets matter. And you would take on a lot of assets in the trade for Jacob Markstrom. And I think that was lost along the way by whoever ultimately makes those decisions to move money. If you are picking up what I am putting down. But to wrap up the show, we are going to talk about the long-term plan, which realistically, we know what it is. But before we do that, though, we are going to take a quick little break here and talk to you about FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. The Rangers just swept the Capitals, so I am sure, all the people that bet on the Capitals to be the underdog are sorely missing their money, but who knows? They might be able to bet on that next series between the Rangers and Canes, or Rangers and Islanders. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from home runs, slap shots to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed and following me on Twitter at JessBelmosto. The long-term picture for Jacob Markstrom is not long-term. We know that it's more than likely going to end in a trade, and he's going to be someone's rental goaltender. The Flames traded him at the start of March, or before the start of March. There was opportunity there for that to happen, and so he still has 3 years left. Why did I think he only had 2 years left? Oh my gosh. Okay. So he has 3 years left on this contract. So maybe a team is more likely to bite with 3 seasons, or maybe 2.5 by the time the deadline comes around. So, that's enough time. Like, that could be enough time for a team to, fix their moving parts and make a run for it. Now, I don't know if Jacob Markstrom is going to be well enough and young enough to still be held together for 3 more seasons of this, but like, I think it might be worth looking into for some teams. He's a veteran goaltender. He has experience. He was just nominated for a Vezina. He probably finished top 5 voting, but he finished the season top 10 in goal saves above expected. So I'm not gonna sit here and just write Jacob Markstrom off. He goes out every single night and does what he needs to do. And the mentality that he has, he is a workhorse. He started 63 games 2 seasons ago, followed it up with obviously less, and then did, I believe, 48 games this season. Like, that's with missing time to injury and splitting the starts with Wolf and a few with Vladar. But Vladar really only saw time when Markstrom was injured as well. Regardless, Jacob Markstrom is a goaltender that you want on your team. And I know a lot of Flames fans at this point are kind of like, well, trade everyone you can off, bring in those assets. I understand that completely. And I am fully in the trade Markstrom camp. This is something I see both sides of, because I enjoy Jacob Markstrom and what he brings to the team and watching good goaltending every night. But I also want to reap the rewards eventually of capitalizing on your players that you can afford to trade off. And it's just very telling to me that it didn't happen in March. I want to believe that it was something bigger than money in that cap retention. And I think ultimately he gets traded. I do. I don't think there is a world where he can move forward for another 3 seasons with this organization, simply because it's awkward. Like, there are certain things that you can like move past, but like, I don't like that. I don't enjoy, I don't think anyone enjoys being slighted by an employee or employer and being told, hey, like, we're going to do this for you. And then it ends up not happening. Over promising and under delivering is like what HR wants you to believe is good. Oh, we're going to give you a raise. No, actually, here's a pizza party instead. Like, but that's, again, a whole different conversation. You need a strong veteran goaltender there to help ease in Dustin Wolf. In order for Dustin Wolf to have a good transition to the NHL, he needs someone to lean on. He needs someone to learn from. And goalie coaches are great. That goes without saying. A goalie tandem is great, but having someone as seasoned as Jacob Markstrom, as competitive, as driven as Markstrom, like, that will do wonders for someone who is climbing that same ladder. I think that you get Wolf settled in here. You sign another goaltender, maybe. I mean, I don't know, because you're not like, you have to have other goaltenders, but like, that is a problem for someone else to figure out and for us to explore once we see who's available this summer on the goaltending free agent market. But Jacob Markstrom needs to be here temporarily as a stop hold for Wolf to learn from. After that, respectfully, you've been wonderful to do business with. I have enjoyed watching you, Jacob Markstrom. It is nothing personal. Go serve another team. Go do them wonders, because the Flames' main priority right now is not winning. They need to get their ducks in a row. Their ducks are all squabbling around. running amok. They need to work on collecting them and then getting them in a row. And I think, with the draft coming up in 2 months, like, there's still plenty of time to move these players. There's plenty of time. And there's a lot of time to just get acclimated with what your future is and really look at what's there, because I don't know what I don't know what the future holds, because I feel like this is going to go one or two ways. He's traded this summer, or they trade him mid-season, because they can't keep him. They can't. The long-term picture here is Dustin Wolf, which we've known about. Dustin Wolf has been the long-term picture since the Flames signed Jacob Markstrom in free agency. And I talked about it. I remember the free agency episode where I talked about Dustin Wolf coming in towards the tail end of this contract and kind of taking over for Jacob Markstrom, and Wolf learning from Jacob Markstrom. That's where we're at. That's just where we're at, because time's ticking. And Dustin Wolf isn't going to wait around forever. And you do have to sign him this summer to another he's an RFA, so you do have to extend him. So it's just going to be a little bit of, again, this is another transition period that they need to take seriously and to actually do something with, because you can't just keep being in the soggy middle. That doesn't do anyone any good. So hopefully this top 10 draft pick, maybe they move up a spot or two. Probably not, but you're not getting Macklin Celebrini. And you just hope for the best, because I don't really know what else you're looking forward to right now. There's better days ahead of the Flames, and we're just going to continue to ride it out, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're here for hockey. The good, the bad, the ugly, the basement dwelling days, the Stanley Cup winning days, everything in between. Like, I'm here for hockey. Regardless, I don't care how good a team is. I don't care how bad a team is. I'm here to talk about them. And you can tune in to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto, and I will be back tomorrow with more player reviews, or if there's any sort of news out of Calgary. But until then, stay safe, stay warm, stay dry, stay hydrated, and I will see you tomorrow.